We're seeing you now.
Okay,
it's on.
Are we going on the third then?
You feel a headlock from the back? That's me. Awesome.
Thank you so much.
We look forward to meeting you on the third, Auggie
all right,
Smith.
we're going to be there.
I look forward to that, too.
If
you're not there, I'm coming to your house after the show.
Yeah.
I'm Wendy.
And welcome to the Toasted Marshmallow Adventures
podcast.
Woo! Today on the show via Zoom, we have comedian Auggie Smith. Thank you so much for being here today.
Or should we call you
Thanks
Kevin?
for having me. Yeah, you can call me. It would be better to be Auggie because that's the way the world knows me now.
Okay.
It is very weird when you have two different names because my legal name, believe it or not, is Kevin Smith. And I started doing stand-up before the other guy got popular. That's how long I've been doing stand-up. So I got very, very lucky that I didn't have to add my middle name and be Kevin Ward Smith.
Yeah, there's a slightly famous Kevin Smith out there, right?
I'm like the fifth most famous Kevin Smith. If I was still Kevin Smith, there's a catcher. There's been like 3 DBs. Yeah, there's been a bunch of people named Kevin Smith that have done much better in life than me. That's why I'm happy to be Auggie Smith.
Nice.
So is Auggie your middle name or?
No, it was a dumb nickname I got in high school. There's a movie called Silverado, and they had a character named Auggie, and I kept saying how stupid the name was. And my friend said, well, if you keep saying that, we're going to start calling you Auggie. And a week later, it's only what he called me. So when I started doing stand-up, I started using that name. But now somebody else is horning in on the Auggie Smith beautiful name. It's this peacekeeper. Do you know about this peacekeeper?
I've seen something. Yeah, I saw that on YouTube.
His dad is named Auggie Smith.
Oh,
okay. And he's played by the T-1000, the bad guy in Terminator 2, my man Robert Patrick, who I love. But now he's wrecking my good name because I get Google searches. I get Google hits every day. Oh, and it's never me. It's never me. It's
yeah. When I searched you, that came up.
Now,
and he's not even real. He's not even a real guy.
Okay.
And he's a bigger Auggie Smith than the real Auggie Smith.
Then there was another guy without the second G, looked like a kid. He had 22 subscribers, and he was in your line of, comedian clips. So that's not him.
That's ain't him.
So you've been doing this for 30 years.
Yeah, isn't that something? Wow. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Most of my life has been spent going on stage. Yeah. I started the summer after high school. Mm-hmm. So I was 18. And I drove out to Chicago from Montana, then to Portland from there, then to New York from there, and then back to Portland, then down to Los Angeles, up to Portland, and back to Los Angeles.
Wow.
Damn.
And that's where I am now.
In the meantime, have three children.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you were giving parenting advice when you didn't have kids.
Oh, yeah.
Now I have none. I didn't have kids. I absolutely knew how to parent. Now I have absolutely no idea.
Right.
But when I didn't have kids, that's when I was going to work on a book, the Childless Guy's Guide to Parenting. But it just, then I got to read a book. Writing a book is one thing, but then somebody has to read it.
That's right.
And I don't want to do that. I don't want to give anybody homework. For Christ's sake.
Now, I gotta say, I am with you. Like, my kids are grown now, but I'm with you on the child leashes. Definitely, I had one for my son.
Had one.
Oh yeah.
Did you really?
Yeah, my kid. If I didn't have a leash on him, I would have lost him. And they frown on that.
We haven't gone so far as leash, but we've lost track of them a couple times. So maybe the leash is a good idea.
I think
you never went with the collar though, right? You can't do the collar.
The
they get
shot
upset
collar?
about that.
Oh,
yeah,
I got
when they
my
get
leash
too
at
far.
Petco. Yeah.
No, I've changed my mind on all those things. I've brought my baby onto an airplane many times. I used to see babies on airplanes and I couldn't understand it. Now I absolutely love it. And I'll tell you why I love it. Because when somebody brings a baby on an airplane, they know what they're doing? They're building community. Because here's the thing. whether you have kids or not, if you're an adult in this society, and yes, you do live in a society, you are in the parenting National Guard, okay? You could be called up at any moment, at any time. Whether or not you've sworn that responsibility or not, you see a kid run into traffic, you grab the kid, okay? Right. And when you're on an airplane and you see that person get on with the angry toddler, that is when you were called up. That is when it is time to grab a weapon and stand to watch, because you are now a parent. Because for the next 3 hours, your happiness and that child's happiness are exactly the same thing.
That is
You can do nothing about that. We're all in it together now. So now I bring babies on airplanes to make other people better, to make them better people. Yes.
I tend to always like be in the seat.
This. You're welcome.
I'm always in the seat behind the toddler that's looking over, and I have to make faces.
Yeah. You're expected to be very entertaining.
Yeah. Well, she's not a parent at all. No.
I never had kids. No. Yeah. So I'm challenged when it comes to kids. Yeah.
Congratulations on that one. Way
Thank you. Yeah. I worked hard at it.
It took me a long time. That's the thing. I know you guys see the gray beard and you're thinking, oh, this guy has kids that are out of the house. No, I have 3 little kids. Oh, I have a 7-year-old, I have a 5-year-old, and I have a toddler. I'm an old man with a toddler. Late? I don't know. You don't think. I think what I thought was that the world was going to end. I thought on this last one, well, the world's ending anyway. Let's have a kid.
What that?
You know? What does it matter?
Yeah.
The proverbial meteor's on the way. What does it matter? Let's have some fun. And
is that part of being a comic that's traveling constantly, that it's hard to build the other part of your life as well? Or did you? Yeah, because it seems like.
Well, it's a very good point. I'll tell you, between the ages of 20 and 41, you would have described me as a comedian. That would have been the first way I was described, and it was the only thing that mattered to me. I had relationships. I have people that I loved and still love, but comedy was always number one on my list of priorities, because that's, I think in some ways, the only way you can be an artist is to only be an artist. So then you meet somebody and you fall in love, and pretty soon you're getting married, and pretty soon you're having children, and pretty soon spending 4 months in a row driving through Canada and or the Midwest or the South or the New England doesn't seem to have as much appeal as it once did. And so, my life has changed that way. I am no longer comedian first. Comedian's like maybe the 4th thing I am.
Oh, dang. Wow.
Yeah.
So you don't want to do the Jim Gaffigan thing and take all 5 kids on the road. That's what he does.
Well, that's because Jim Gaffigan has $1 billion.
Yeah.
That's why he does that. I have no idea how I would bring all the kids. Yeah. Exactly. He just rents out a hotel. He probably Airbnbs them each a house next to each other, is what I imagine the way that he does it for a weekend. And good for him. Good for Jim Gaffigan. The rest of us have to go. You know who I hired forever when I was going on the road was we hired comics. We just hired because we hired comics that weren't working that weekend to nanny the kids. Yeah.
Oh,
some of the best comics in the world have watched my kids. And what happened was all of them got too successful. They all got too successful. So now we go on an app. We go on an app and we hire people that way to come in to watch the kids, as they will be doing.
An app or a babysitter app?
It's a babysitter app. It's a babysitter, but just for comedians.
So does your wife travel with you? Sorry.
No, she's well ensconced into her job, and so there's been times when we were both when we didn't have kids where she'd go with me sometimes, and those were good times. But that hasn't happened in a while. Maybe one of these days we'll get a sitter for the kids, and she'll be able to come and see the world with me.
Yeah.
So what made you decide to have kids later in life? Was it just your career? I mean, you could have still decided not to do that.
Yeah.
Or was it
I don't
just
know.
like a whoops
Is
the
it
first
even a
one?
decision you make in life? It's like one day you're one thing, one day you're a single comic, and then you meet somebody and that person matters to you in a way that nobody's ever mattered to you before. And you decide that that person is now part of your life. And you decide that together, that now you're not just the one, but you're the two. And then at one point you decide, we've heard all of each other's stories. It's
Yeah.
time to it's time to add something to the conversation. So let's have a kid, something to talk about. Is what I think it is.
Yeah, really.
What happens is you get married, and inside of 2 years, you're out of stuff to talk about. And I had 40 years of stories built up, but I burned through them pretty quick.
Wow.
So then at some point, it's like, okay, I guess we got to have kids so that we have something else to talk about.
Conversation.
Yeah.
Were you
And they're
married to her a long
tremendous
time?
conversation pieces. Say again?
Were you married to her a long time before you had kids?
Let's see, Porter. 3 years. We had our first kid
3
at
years.
3
Oh,
years.
okay.
Yeah, which I think is right. I don't know. I don't know the clock on these things.
Gotcha.
Where you're supposed to be at.
Now I have to ask
felt
this
right.
because you're a comic. Did you meet her at a show?
I met my wife in the middle of Death Valley.
Okay.
There is a comedian called Doug Stanhope.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he's a tremendous comic, but he's also a community builder, which is a rare thing in art in general, but in stand-up, it's a rare thing. And he was building communities before any of these podcast people were doing it. And one thing he did was that he threw this big party in the middle of the desert, in the middle of Death Valley, where he'd rent out a hotel that had a camping ground next to it and put up a big stage. And then all of his comedian and artist friends and the weirdo killer termites from around the globe all would descend. And so I went there, and my wife was there, and we don't remember if we met or not. But I lived in Portland, and she lived in Portland, and I left something there, so they gave it to her to give back to me. Oh. So then I came back to Portland. I showed up her apartment, which, by the way, was 8 blocks from my house.
Whoa!
In Death Valley, and she lived 8 blocks from my house on the same block.
That's amazing.
We both lived on 41st. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy. And so I delivered that thing. Okay. Then it's over. End of relationship until a year later, she ends up at a show that I'm at. So I met her in the desert, and then at her apartment, and then at a show. And then after that, then we had met.
Nice.
Those were the 3 places. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's romantic comedy kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I tell you.
Yeah.
Jeez. Now I have to ask you here, and we'll talk about your shows at the lounge coming up. Oh, also, speaking of Doug Stanhope, the owner of the lounge, ask her Doug Stanhope story. It's very interesting. I don't want to say it here while we're live or anything.
Well, most people have a pretty good Doug Stanhope story. Weirdly enough, so the first time I ever met him in the late 90s, I opened for him in Boise. I spent a week with him in Boise when they used to have the Funny Bone, which is at the same location that's Liquid Laughs now. What used to be the Funny Bone, and then the Funny Bone moved, and then it moved back. It was crazy. I've done many different venues in Boise, and some of them have been the same place called different things. Anyway, so I opened for Stanhope there, and it was 2 weeks after I had broken up with the only relationship that had mattered to me up until that point in my life. And we had been together for 3 years. Then she broke up with me. And then I spent 2 weeks later, I'm working with Doug Stanhope, right? Which was this beautiful cleansing thing. It was honestly, it was probably the most important week of my comedian life, of just living the life the way Doug Stanhope lived his life at the time. And I think to some extent still does.
I think so.
And and it was just this incredibly important week to me. So then we cut to about 2 years ago. Stanhope does a podcast where he talks to Lisa Young, who used to be the manager of the Boise Club. And I'm thinking, well, Auggie Smith is going to get talked about a lot because obviously I am an extremely important part of the Stanhope Lisa Young Boise experience.
Yeah.
Not one time did I come up. They told a story about me, but they told it as though it was somebody else.
Oh,
They didn't even remember it was me.
Oh my God.
So hurt. So hurt.
Oh,
And I walk around hurt to this day. I'm never gonna get over it. I'm never gonna get over it.
Now I have to ask you this because I almost think I've seen you in Boise. Did you ever perform at Hijinks?
Hijinks was the one that was on the second floor.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Oh, cool.
Okay, I think I've seen you.
I had some good times there.
That was at least 10 years ago or more.
Man, that was a fun club. There's just Boise has just been rife with really good comedy venues for as long as I've been doing it, which at this point is like 25 years. I've been coming back there.
Now, if that was you, I saw, and I remember your clothes are a little bit, and you could tell me, and this is how we'll determine if it was you, but you are the comedian, was basically telling the crowd, like, when I leave here, don't fucking clap, don't stand up,
Oh, did I do that night?
Okay, so it was fucking you. But the crazy thing is you made everyone give you a fucking standing ovation. I was like, that is amazing how he just took control of the crowd like that.
Over the years, sometimes I end a show, and I heard a story about this one time when Hedberg was like featuring clubs, and often like in the Midwest, the crowds just didn't get him. So there was this club in Davenport, Iowa, and I was there the week after Hedberg had featured, and they told me the story about how he's just spent 30 minutes being brilliant and just having them not appreciate him. So he just said, when I leave here, don't applaud or anything. And so he just walked off to quiet. And I just loved that. Yeah. So occasionally I will take that a step further and tell people they can't make any noise whatsoever. They can't acknowledge me. And then I walk slowly through the crowd looking at people to make them as uncomfortable as I felt at some punchlines. So I'm going to go on a limb here and say, you didn't see a very good show.
Oh, really?
Normally, I only do that when I am upset at the crowd.
Oh,
and
okay.
So I was punishing you for being a bad crowd that night.
Okay.
And
See,
for not appreciating.
I thought it was great because you basically controlled the crowd. And that's the thing is then afterwards, the way people's view of a show is so different than a performer's view of a show. Yeah. It just happens on, and it took me years to learn this, and I'm still sort of learning it sometimes. I feel like is that most of the time people are having a much better time than you think they're having when you're on stage. Because what happens is you zero in on the one person that's distracted or yawning or glancing at their phone or not enjoying themselves, and you think that speaks for the greater truth of the room. It happens all the time. And so some comics always think they do better than they did, but most comics think they did worse than they did.
Yeah, I agree.
That's just the thing about my job.
Yep.
Yeah, I would actually say the worst part of that show was the girlfriend that I was with at the time. It was me, her, and her friend. Her friend may have had a date or something. But they're talking the whole time, and we're way in.
See, it was probably you guys.
It might have been. We were way in the.
You didn't shut it down.
Well, she was trying to talk to me.
You are not an ally, sir.
She actually got pissed at me because I was like, "Shh," like be quiet. 'Cause she was trying to talk to me. I'm trying to watch fucking comedy. They're trying to have a conversation. Now their phones out, and she's like, she actually got mad at me that night because of that. Because I was telling her to shush during the show.
No, that's so uncomfortable when you're with somebody and they're not respecting a show. It's the most uncomfortable thing in the world.
I hate that.
Yeah, I'm glad you got rid of that woman. How long were you with her?
Exactly. She did not appreciate comedy.
Who needs her?
Well,
Who needs her?
I when I started looking up your stuff, I was like, I think I've seen him years
ago. I know that guy.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's funny that you saw one of those shows. That's what you saw is a rarity. I do that like maybe once or twice a year. So
gotcha.
you saw a good one.
Nice. Oh, geez. So let's talk. Did your kid really get into some morphine?
Yes, my
Wow.
kid really did get in some morphine. This is when we were in Tucson,
Mm-hmm.
and my mama lived there. And so when my kids were very young, my boy was 2 and my daughter was a baby. And so we'd go and visit her all the time. And elderly people's houses they're just pharmacies.
Yeah,
They're
they
just
Yeah.
are.
piled high with pills
And
everywhere
on
you
the
look.
floor,
And so,
yeah.
and you do your best. You do your best,
Yeah.
but you can't watch them all the time. So yeah, no, he just handed me. It was like Nod On. It was like
Yeah.
Nod On, where obviously he had been into it.
Yeah.
And oh man, but see, there have been so many things since then that have been. This morning, my toddler got a hold of a Keurig cup
Yeah.
Oh, no.
and got into the coffee
Oh.
grounds. And so I walk into the living room and he's got a mouthful
Oh,
of
my-
coffee grounds and just like it piled up in front of him. And so so I just expected he was going to be a meth addict for the rest of the
Yeah.
day, just vacuuming and taking apart appliances, cornering me and telling me about his screenplay, things like that.
Yeah.
It's just it's because it's the thing is they horrify you. One of the things about kids is that they're born and then they spend the first few years of their lives trying to commit suicide. They try to
They
kill
do.
themselves
Yeah.
for a cut, and you just need to continue to stop them from that. You're
Yeah.
constantly just the cop on the bullhorn telling them to step down from the ledge because it's going to be okay. There's
Yeah.
just been so many times where I grab my kid right as he's about to take a step off of the bed or the couch or whatever. And man, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
So occasionally they'll eat some pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
Occasionally
Yeah.
that will happen.
It's going to happen.
Yeah. Jeez. Yeah, so my son was wild when he was little, I had like one time the fire department had to come out to some field because him and his friends like set a fire out there and shit like that, so just wait.
Yeah. They were just lighting fire to a cross
Yeah.
Yeah,
normal
no big
kid
deal.
stuff. like they do, like kids do.
Yeah. So are your older kids, are they into what you do, or are they just kind of like
7-year-old.
They've seen me a couple of times. So when we were in Tucson, when we were there for my mom, my very young son and my baby at that time, my daughter, they saw me do a set. They sat in the back of the room, and at one point, I just heard when it got quiet for a second. I was about to go into a joke, and I just hear "Daddy,"
Oh, God.
and apparently he had started running towards me down the aisle, and the wife had to catch him. And then I did a show a couple years ago, right before pandemic, that was a kids show. It's a monthly show set up in LA, and it's designed. It's stand up, and it's adults doing stand up, but kids get to come. So it's like finding a comic that can gear his jokes. And I said, it's like, do you want me just to do dumb old jokes from a book, dad stuff?
Yeah.
Because I got that in the holster if you need it. But no, she said, no, we want you to do your regular stand-up act, and obviously, but gear it towards kids. And I'm telling you guys, it was the most nervous I've ever been for a comedy show, because my son and my daughter and my wife were all coming to see this show.
Yeah.
And so I started and it started not going that well. Like I started not going, and then I realized that kids don't necessarily just want to be an audience. They have to be included. So I started talking to some of the kids and then doing my jokes off of talking to them. And I don't do crowd. That's the thing about Auggie Smith. That if you don't want to be asked a question, come see Auggie Smith. I will not engage you.
Yeah.
You will be a spectator. I promise you. You can sit in the darkness of the room and you can take it all in.
Yes.
And you can have a response or not have a response. But I don't care what you do, and I don't care where you're from. I don't care about any of that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't do crowd work. And for those that do, good for them.
Yeah.
Way to go. It's a hard thing to do. Some guys are really good at it. I think that's great. I do none of that. None. Yeah. But now it's the only way you can work the kids. So then I started talking to the kids and then working in my bits. And then it started to go very well. And so afterwards, it was the most proud I've been after a show because my son and my daughter laughed at what I did and finally sort of saw what I did. There's a picture of me that's just, it's a close-up of my face with just darkness. And I'm like screaming on stage. And so my daughter likes to look and says, "Daddy, it's you yelling at the dark." Is what she calls it. So that's what she thinks I do. I yell at the dark.
And I get paid.
And it kind of is true. It's kind of what I do. I yell at the dark.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great description.
Yeah, it really is.
It's as good as I've heard for stand-up comedy.
Just make it your new tagline, yells at the dark.
So I'm guessing.
Are you guys both from Boise?
No, Alaska for me and Vallejo.
I'm from the Bay Area. Yeah, Vallejo.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw. Didn't you do a show in Anchorage?
Yeah, I just did Alaska this summer.
What'd you think?
I did the town that Sarah Palin owns. Was it Wasilla? Is that what it's called?
Wasilla.
Yeah. I did Wasilla, and then I did Anchorage, and then we drove 4 hours from Anchorage south to a tiny little town, and I did a show there. And do I remember the name of it? No, I don't.
Wasn't Delta Junction, was it?
If I heard it, I honestly don't think I would know. But it was fantastic. A guy came up to me afterwards, and he said, "We came here and we weren't expecting very much, but you're really good. You know what? We go to Vegas, and you're Vegas good." That's what he told me. So I'm Vegas good, guys.
Nice.
Vegas good, nice.
So did people turn out? I mean, I was from
Juneau. Man.
I'm from Juneau. We never got anybody in Juneau. You have to boat or plane, and never happened.
It's not easy to get there.
No,
I've been doing Alaska for years because I did most of my road work out of Portland. And so the Alaska gigs that got booked from Northwest bookers. So I had flown up there a few times. I did New Year's Eve in Ketchikan several years ago. Yeah, I know. And I did Wasilla years and years and years ago. I think when Sarah Palin might have been the mayor or whatever she was.
Yeah.
Anyway, but you go to Alaska. And it's just absolutely so beautiful. You can't even really describe it. There's a vastness to it all. And I'm from Montana, so I've seen some stuff, man.
Yeah.
But nothing like that. Nothing like that ever. But this was the middle of summer. So when we did 2 shows on Friday, the second show started at like 10:30 and it was still light outside.
Right. Yeah. I know. It's crazy.
And I don't mean like a little bit light. I mean
totally
like
light.
Fully light outside.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Yeah, it is wild.
Yeah, I went there for the first time in 2016, and I remember when we left, our plane left at like 4 a.m. and getting up at 2 or 3 in the morning, and it was light out. It's crazy.
Yeah, how do you deal with that? You can't deal with that.
No.
You go mad. You go absolutely mad.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and then the other side of it, it's
so dark.
Pitch black at like 3 p.m.
Yeah.
The rest
during
of
the winter, it's brutal.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's why there's a lot of alcohol.
I was going to say, yeah, there really are.
Yeah.
You have to drink to deal with it.
Yeah.
So, and I saw a picture. What? Sorry.
I was going to say you were raised there. Some people choose it. Some people choose Alaska, and there's usually a good story behind that. There's usually a story of like, man, I had to get away from everything. I couldn't deal with human people anymore.
Yeah, my uncle came out to visit from Grand Rapids, actually visited us for a week, flew back, divorced his wife, and moved to Juneau. Yeah. So anytime a guy goes there without his wife, I'm like, you better watch it.
Yeah.
It's dangerous.
Trying to get away from everybody.
He had to go a long way. A long way to get away. And Grand Rapids, that's a great town. That's got the Gerald Ford Presidential Museum.
Yep.
He left all that
to
come to Alaska, where I had reindeer in my omelet. I had a reindeer omelet.
In Grand Rapids?
Whoa.
No, not in Grand Rapids.
Okay.
Alaska.
Oh, Alaska.
Gotcha. That makes more sense.
I don't think that reindeer would be fresh in Grand Rapids.
No, that's what I was wondering. Where was that ship from?
Jeez.
Reindeer. So what does reindeer taste like? I've never tried it.
It was okay. It was a little bit spicier than I expected, I guess. But at some point, tiny clumps of meat all sort of taste the same.
Yeah.
When they're in an omelet, it could be chicken. It could be beef. I don't know.
Yeah.
It could be reindeer.
I grew up on caribou. Yeah. We lived in Valdez for a bit, and caribou, I don't remember what it tastes like, but yeah, that was a big thing. So.
I'm looking at your notes here, Wendy, and I see one that says, bad experience with the blind guy. Oh, it was a bit on the Bob and Tom show.
Yeah. Yeah, that he's going to touch your service dog.
Oh, gotcha.
I went through a little phase where I was questioning the idea of therapy dogs because here's the thing about America, guys, is that there's this thing where if somebody gets something that we don't have, we get really pissed about it. Yeah. We're like children, and they go to the fast food place, and they each get a Happy Meal, but one has more fries than the other. And they just say, he's got more fries, and come on, eat your fries. Just shut up and eat your fries. There's plenty of fries. But in America, if anybody's getting something we're not, we get really pissed about it. Yeah. So for a while, I was upset that other people got to bring their dogs on the airplane. Because here's the thing, is that blind people, you need a dog. Okay, totally get it. And then after a while, people that were afraid of flying, they were bringing their little dog on. And now it's just a free-for-all. Now it's everybody saying, well, if they can have their dog, I can have my dog. Yeah. He's a good boy. He's a good boy. Yeah. And I need him. So now there's just full Labrador retrievers walking up and down. It's like a barbecue. It's like a barbecue.
Yeah.
And you expect a Frisbee to come flying across.
Have you ever seen a dog take a shit on a plane?
I have not seen that. I did, however. The wife and I were at an airport, and we had big, heavy bags. So we get on the elevator to go up to the next level instead of the escalator. Mm-hmm. And we get on, and the door closes, and I look over, and there is an enormous shit. Like, enormous shit. And here's where my head goes right away. I think a crazy person that's mad at the airlines took a shit on this elevator to stick it to the man. Yeah. And I respect that. I'm like, fees are bullshit, man. Good for you. You got to strike back somehow. Yeah. Otherwise, Delta ain't going to hear you. So, but then we get out of the elevator, and there's somebody with a German Shepherd service dog that then we have decided, okay, there's your culprit. That makes sense. There's your culprit, because this was a really big dog. But also, don't leave it there. Yeah, and I don't care. Even if you are blind, you smelled that, man. Yeah, you smelled that. Okay, if your senses are heightened like Daredevil, then you definitely knew that. Yeah. And I don't want to hear, I couldn't see. What do I know? I don't know anything. I don't know. I don't know nothing.
Oh, my God.
So it's like, do I confront him? Do I confront this guy? Because I don't got DNA back from the lab yet. I can't really put it specifically on that particular dog, although we all know. Yeah. And also, do you ever want to confront a blind guy about anything? Really. They got enough things going on. They got a hard enough life
you're gonna without look like some asshole.
Bald asshole yelling in his face about a dog poop. So you just let it go, and then we watched the doors close, and so we know somebody else got hit by this thing too.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, God. So you're going to be at the lounge at the end of the universe in Boise on March, what is it?
3rd, 4th, 5th.
3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Do you know Jen?
Oh yeah, yeah. I go back. Jen, she worked at different versions of the different comedy clubs.
Yeah.
I think did she work at Hijinks? I think she worked at
Oh, I
Hijinks
don't
I
know
am
that.
not
too. Anyway,
sure. Yeah, I
I
don't
don't know.
know.
She's just seems like somebody that I've known forever though. Now though, that's the way in comedy and in life is. You get to an age where you've known people for like 20 years.
Yeah.
You just sort of ease into that. You can't help it. So yeah, I know Jen. Jen's wonderful.
Cool.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah,
we got hooked up with her
last year, for the Idaho Comedy Fest, and ended up becoming the official podcast of the Lounge at the End of the Universe.
This is the official podcast.
We're the fucking official.
This is official.
Yes.
It's in print and everything because we made cards with that on it.
Go on some fucking scab podcast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, this is the real deal.
Just keeping it on the move, like that Christian Slater movie when he did guerrilla radio years ago. I didn't want to be part of that. I want to be official.
The official.
Yeah, you're on the official podcast.
Well, I want to talk about the stand-up strip down.
Oh, okay. I hear you're going to be a part of that. The stand-up.
What happened? Wait, what did I do? What did I agree to?
I heard you're going to like get naked and do stand-up.
Oh my God!
Did you know this?
I don't think I have to strip down.
Oh,
I think other people are.
Okay.
I think that I'm a comedian on a burlesque show. Is the way that I understand it.
I heard everybody was, but
you brought it up. I had completely forgotten about it anyway. I'm glad you brought it up. No, I did that one time in Boston about 11 years ago. I was there doing the Boston Comedy Festival, and I was there for the whole week, and I had an off night. So this guy came up to me after I was loaded at an after party. And he's like, "Hey, I run the Naked Comedy Show. You perform naked. Do you want to do that?"
Oh.
And it's like I'm all loaded. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So then you wake up to the reality the next day of what you've agreed to. And so the guy called me. He's like, "Yeah, I understand." But then I thought, nah, took a gig. I got to do the gig. First of all, it's professionalism.
Yeah.
Secondly, I've done every kind of show there's ever been, but I've never done that kind of show.
Yeah.
So I should do it just to do it. And thirdly, it's a road game.
Yeah.
I'm in Boston. It's like North Korea. I'll never be back there again.
Right.
It won't matter. Nothing will matter. So I can do it there. So I did that. And the funny thing is everybody else was doing like 5 or 7 minute sets, but he had me close. So I had to do like 20 minutes.
Naked?
And so yes, exactly. Oh. And the crowd is very forgiving and accepting of everything when you come out there naked, but not 20 minutes in. 20 minminutes in, the stand-up becomes the stand-up at that point, and you're getting real responses one way or the other. And man, I don't know how I did it, but looking back, I sure did it. It sure happened.
Yeah,
wow. I don't know. Were there cell phones around then? I don't know. I'd be scared.
There were. It was just basically a great trust in people.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, when you're talking about the male body, and I'm not sure if you guys took a health class or whatever in high school, but the sizes of things can drastically change.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you're on stage speaking to people,
they don't get
things
larger?
are about as small as it gets. It's about, there's adrenaline and you're afraid and there's all this stuff. So it's tiny. It's just tiny. And
it's very scared.
So it's very scared. Very scared. And I'd like to think that people understood that. I'd like to think that I didn't have to stop and explain it.
Jeez.
So I'd have to explain that on a cell phone camera. It's like, you don't get, and then I'd want to argue by like showing them the real thing, and then that would get weird. Then that's even weirder.
You're just like, no. So you're sending everybody dick pics. Like it's really bigger.
No, see, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
And very healthy.
Whatever it is, it made 3 kids. So it did it.
It works.
It did its job.
Oh my God. So I got to ask.
When it gets to wherever they go after life, where whatever sort of afterlife exists for that particular part of its body, it'll be fine.
Right.
It won't be made fun of. It did its job.
I want to ask this last one. Did I see you in a picture with Robin Williams?
Yeah. There was
the heck.
There's a gig just north of San Francisco. There's a little town. Why am I'm blanking on the name of the town? It doesn't matter. I'll think of it. It doesn't matter.
Was it where he lived? Was it in Napa?
It was Napa. This was north of California. If you go north of San Francisco, and you just go straight north, and you don't cross over. You cross over the Golden Gate Bridge, and it leads you to a couple different little beautiful California towns.
Marin, Nevada.
This is like Marin. It isn't Marin, but it's like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And so anyway, they have a gig there. They have a gig there at a theater every Tuesday. They do a stand-up show there. And it just so happens that Dana Carvey and Mort Saul and Robin Williams all live in the neighborhood, or lived in the neighborhood, I should say, at the time. So when you'd go do this gig, it not only paid really well and put you up at this beautiful hotel across the street for not having to do that much, because it's like there's like 6-7 people on the show, is it often in the green room, there'll happen to be just a legend sitting there. So I was in the green room, and Robin Williams walks in. There's a side door that leads to an alley, and he walks in the side door, and it's like, oh my God. And there's 4 or 5 comics in there, and I've never met Robin Williams, and a couple of them had. So all of a sudden, people sort of get up into a greeting line to say hello to him. And the guy right in front of me says, Robin, we've met a few times before. You probably don't remember me. My name is whatever he said. And then he finishes, and then it gets to me, and I say, Robin Williams, I'm Auggie Smith. And just know that that's the first thing I'm going to say to you every time I see you, is that I'm Auggie Smith. I won't expect you to remember me or remember my name, and I'll be fine with it because I'm Auggie Smith. And Robin Williams goes, you're Auggie Smith. And I said, I'm Auggie Smith. And we went back and forth like that. Like all of a sudden, I'm doing a bit with Robin Williams, right? So then he sits down and is a beautifully gracious man, and people are telling stories, and he's telling stories. And every once in a while, he's just turning to me, and he's going, you're Auggie Smith. And I go, I'm Auggie Smith, right? And we're doing that back and forth. So it gets to the show's over. Everybody's leaving. And he gets up to leave, and I'd say, okay, this is my chance to kind of walk out with him. So we get to the door, and I tell him, it's like, I try to tell him how important the movie The Fisher King is to me, right? Because it means all these things to me in my life. And I try, I clumsily try to explain that to him. And he was, of course, very kind. And he told me this quick story about being naked, actually, in Central Park. And so we say goodbye, and he walks away. And there's this light at the end of the alley, just a street light. And he gets right under that, and he turns on his heels, and he says, you're Auggie Smith. And then he just walks into the night.
Nice.
And that was the last time I ever saw him. Oh, wow. And it was maybe the perfect celebrity encounter. So, yeah, it was a good one.
Amazing. Wow.
It was a good one, I tell you.
Yeah. That's amazing. Really cool.
That is cool. Speaking of late comics, and we've lost a lot of them this past year, but the most recent, I believe, is the Amazing Jonathan. Did you know him?
I never had the pleasure of the Amazing Jonathan. I did have the pleasure of getting to see him live one time. Oh, cool. I was working Vegas, and I had the guy that was I had the night off, and so I had the guy that was he was working, he worked at downtown. I forget the name of the place he worked. But yeah, and arranged tickets for me. It was just me. It wasn't tickets. It was ticket because I wanted to see him so bad. And it was everything you'd hoped he would be. He was just energy when he walked out, and everybody was on the edge of their seat right away. And and I only saw the one show, but I've seen him, a million times on different videos and stuff. And I think the guy killed every time. I think he was one of these performers that killed every time. And so, he is a great loss.
Stage.
He was pure entertainment. He's exactly what entertainment should be. He's exactly what entertainment should be.
I remember watching
just
him.
Takes you out of your life and into this other place, into this other world. And you just sit there and you hang out in that other world for a little while.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what he did.
Did you watch the documentary on him?
No, it was, I knew what it was. I knew that it was about him being sick. And I couldn't bring myself to watch it, even though how many people have told me how good it is. I couldn't, I don't know. The sadness of it. I couldn't bring myself to watch it.
Yeah. I haven't watched it yet either, but
because it's like,
go watch it now.
he had this terrible disease and all these shitty comics are walking around healthy. Come on, man.
Well, didn't a lot of people think he was faking it as well?
Yeah, well, that was the same thing Andy Kaufman had. I mean, that's why people still think he's alive. There's a couple people that still think he's alive because he was always doing shit like that. You know, he was the boy that cried cancer. And then one day he actually had cancer.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I did hear that about Amazing Jonathan, that a couple people thought it was a bit, but I think it became pretty clear pretty early that it was not.
Yeah.
Or maybe it still is. Maybe it still is.
Right.
Maybe he's still out there.
Come back in a year in Vegas. Drop into somebody else's show.
Yeah. Another question, and I'm asking this because I saw recently that his family filed a lawsuit to not release details of his death. You got any insider scoop on Bob Saget?
No, that was another guy. Saget was another guy that I never knew. I never crossed paths with him. You only hear good things. He was one of those guys you waited to hear all of the sexual harassment stories.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's like every time somebody dies, it's like, yeah, he was a good guy to you, but and then you'd hear 50 stories of what a monster they were. But he was never that guy. No. He was never that guy. He was just a class guy all the way around that everybody loved. And so then they're saying he hit his head and had the brain bleed or whatever. And then I don't know, because I've spent my life not trusting anything I see on the news or the media. So I don't trust anything that I've seen on the news or the media. But it does seem a little weird. It seems a little odd. What I do hope is that the people that saw that last show know what they saw. By all accounts, he did a 2-hour show, his last ever show.
Yeah,
and I hope the people appreciated what they got. I hope that they appreciated that they saw the swan song of an amazing entertainer, of a guy that had 2 top 10 shows at the same time.
Right.
Like, at the time, he was the most successful comedian or entertainer in the world. He was the most successful one for a little while there, and just continued a steady career where he worked for 35 years. Amazing to me. Yeah,
definitely. And the thing that kind of annoyed me when he did, after he did die, you know, there were all these people that thought he was, you know, Danny Tanner, and thought he was, you know, the person, you know, on America's Funniest Home Video, but his stand-up's nothing like that. And so many people just like, I think at that time maybe just discovered his stand-up and talking about, he's like got these jokes about rape, and he's got, you know, this and that, and how horrible of a person he was because he told these jokes, and he wasn't Danny Tanner to, you know, anymore. Well,
who would want to see that?
Annoyed me.
Who would want to see Danny Tanner do stand-up?
Right.
I wouldn't. Right. I wouldn't go see that show. That would be awful.
Yeah, exactly.
Danny Tanner doing stand-up is Dave Coulier. That's what that
is. Yeah, exactly.
On that note, we should probably get out of here.
Yeah, definitely.
We are looking forward to seeing you at the lounge, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Are you actually going to come see the show?
Actually,
as the official podcast?
I think we're going to be out of town.
We could go the 3rd.
We could go the 3rd.
The 4th, we're leaving out of town.
You're not looking forward to it at all.
We are. We're so happy you're coming.
The official lying podcast. Fine. Come or don't come. It doesn't matter.
We are going on is it the 4th we leave on a ski trip?
Yeah.
Okay, we do leave on a ski trip.
Sorry,
I get that that's important. I get that you need to fall down a hill successfully for a day. I get
kind
it.
of our
you need to conquer the elements.
See, we got a skier right here.
And a snowboarder. That's me.
That's what. The reason that God built that mountain was for you to ski down it.
Exactly.
That's why it's there.
He
You must
installed
conquer
the
it.
ski lifts as
Conquer
well.
your elements. Exactly. Ski lifts were put up
Yes.
as designed by nature.
Oh, we're seeing you now.
Okay,
It's on.
are we going on the third then?
You feel a headlock from the back? That's me.
Oh.
And you better believe I'm going to end the show with silence. You better
Oh,
believe.
good.
Oh, fuck
I don't
yeah.
want you to be.
All right, we're gonna
Be
fucking
disappointed.
be there.
We'll be there.
All right. Yes. All right. Thank you so much for being here
Good times.
today.
Thanks
Great
for having
seeing
me.
you.
People, Twitter me at Auggie Smith. That's what I mostly do. I have an Instagram. I never use it.
Yeah,
if you want to come to, you can come monitor my Facebook page or be my Facebook friend. It's Auggie Smith with 2 G's. But Twitter's the best thing.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you so much.
We look forward to meeting you on the 3rd, Auggie
all right,
Smith.
we're gonna be there.
I look forward to that too. If you're
Yeah.
not there, I'm coming to your house after the show.
Yeah.
Thanks a
I'm
bunch.
showing up like Putin. This ain't
Oh,
It's over.
Invading. All right, I'm signing out.
I'm signing off.
I'm Chris Adams.
I'm Wendy Mosier. # Get Toasted.
Stay toasted.
Thank you.